We were told in 2008, Noah, and we all remember this so well, that with the election of Barack Obama, the new post-racial era was here. We weren't going to have to worry about issues like this anymore. All of our problems, any racial animosity, everything was going to be solved. All problems would be laid to rest. But instead, it turns out that the exact opposite has happened, and it's worse than ever. I've been speaking with people. I mean, obviously, we weren't alive during the 60s, but I've been talking to people who were alive during the 60s and were alive during the 50s, and they say, yeah, it's pretty much a lot like that. Maybe a little less violence, but it's a lot like that in terms of the racial tension. Noah, why is this? What has accounted for this?
Well, it's hard to put your finger on exactly one cause, but I do believe, and I think that that even a neutral observer would have to concede that there's been quite a fair bit of racial agitation on the part of the president and his supporters, particularly in the 2012 campaign. We saw, and I'm not pointing all fingers at the president and his supporters,
Right.
but we saw figures like the Attorney General of the United States contending that quite a bit of the opposition to the president was founded in racial animus. We saw a variety of the president's supporters, particularly those in the media, making the claim that just about anything, any innocuous phrase, could be twisted into some sort of racial code word, indicative of racial animus that was supposedly bubbling up and resulting in the tensions that we're seeing today. Making, it doesn't matter that the president was reelected twice by majorities of the American electorate, but that there was any opposition to the president was founded in some form of racism or racial antipathy. I think that was really deeply foundationally irresponsible and disruptive to the social fabric, and we're seeing quite a bit of that in the form of what we're seeing now in violence in the streets that have a decidedly racial element to them.
Right, and just the other day, the First Lady, in giving a speech, was saying that, well, there said something along the lines of, well, a lot of minorities don't go to museums because they look at museums and think that these places aren't for me. Why would you even suggest to anybody that a museum wouldn't be? Maybe it's because they grow up hearing people in their community say museums aren't for you. I mean, it's things like, I was kind of shocked at that. I mean, we could sit here and talk about a number of examples, but I don't even know why they would need to continue to play that card, to use that tactic.
No, that's again, it's very irresponsible. And frankly, if that was said by anybody on the right side of the political aisle, it would be cause for quite a bit of consternation and maybe 48 hours worth of a news cycle in which every Republican was forced to denounce that kind of a sentiment. That sort of thing doesn't apply to Democrats. And frankly, it's a double standard that I think is really deleterious
Right.
to the social fabric. We have to address that. And we should address it honestly and forthrightly. And I attempt to do that in a variety of columns on Hot Air and commentary, for example. But we also have some cause for hope. As you mentioned, we have data going back to the 1960s, the early 1960s, on race relations, and we've really been here before. We've seen troughs in the state of racial comedy, at least in when it comes to perception. And we usually recover from those, and we're generally making progress in terms of economic and political parity along racial lines. So the real metrics for measuring racial parity are actually moving in the right direction. And sometimes we have things that happen like in the 1992 Los Angeles riots and in Baltimore and Ferguson now that are really depressing
Right.
the poll numbers. But I think we're stronger as a country than that, and we will recover.